Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today we're taking a look at a new Maison Alhambra, and it's Maison Alhambra's Mysterious Amber. All right, so Mysterious Amber is from the house of Maison Alhambra. It's an eau de parfum concentration, and you can pick up this 80 milliliter bottle for $27 at places like Fragrance Buy. Link will be down in the description if you decide you want to check this one out. Also have a coupon code. Save yourself $5 off your purchase at Fragrance Buy if you decide you want to shop with them. So we have ourselves a new Maison Alhambra, going with the line of Maison Alhambras that are kind of a clone series of a rather famous designer fragrance, if you will, or designer brand, if you will, that's a little tricky to mention on camera because they do like to take down people's videos. So those who know. I'll get into that in a little bit here, but box presentation on this, pretty straightforward, but nice presentation, very similar to the house that they are trying to clone. It is a slide off cover like so, revealing our kind of revamped bottles, if you will, within this series. So nice kind of rounded corners on this, nice thick base to this, heavy glass on this one, cap on this, kind of a lightweight metal mixed with plastic, but has some strength to it so it won't crush in my powerful hands. And the atomizer on this bad boy, pretty decent, long sprays, semi-wide puffs, but it'll definitely get the job done. So overall, box presentation, decent. So if you were wondering what Maison Alhambra's that Mysterious Amber smells like, you've come to the right place, because I'm about to tell you. The unofficial notes for this, I did even reach out to Maison Alhambra to try and get an official note breakdown on this, but in true Maison Alhambra fashion, they don't reply and they don't even really have a real website to showcase this. So there are a few sites that have this listed. I did check them out. This is kind of what I'm thinking it's lining up with and also what I think it's cloning. So unofficial notes for this are an amber, incense, vanilla, olibanum, labdanum, and some woody notes. So let me tell you what I get from this fragrance. In that opening, you just get hit with that amberiness. This is a very ambery style of fragrance, but you get some of that olibanum, some of that labdanum comes through. So it has this ambery, sweet balsamic, sort of resinous sort of opening to it. Very dark, warm, sort of boldness to it. And you get some of that incense that comes through. So it's a nice kind of churchy style of incense. Adds a little bit of a smokiness to it, but it's more of that, like I said, kind of that churchy incense, that really kind of wispy incense that wraps around that ambery texture and some of those resins and that balsamic nature. So like I said, has this kind of deep, rich, dark style of opening. It has a little bit of sweetness to it, but don't think about it in terms of like a candy sweetness or a floral sweetness or even kind of a vanilla style of sweetness. Very much a balsamic style of sweetness that's quite unique in the opening to this. As this opens up a little bit more, the amber stays with this fragrance pretty much from the opening to the dry down, but that incense pushes forward a little bit more. You do get a little poke of that vanilla that comes through, but it is very subtle and it just kind of rounds out kind of the dark resinous balsamic nature of this. But the majority of the sweetness, like I said, is coming from that kind of balsamic resinous sweetness that you are getting. As you get towards the dry down, more of those woody notes come through. So you get almost kind of a mix of notes, but you do get kind of like a nice fresh, spicy, cedary style of woods that come through, and it just forms this foundation for that, for those resins to kind of sit on top of for that amberiness, and it really fuses in nice with that incense. So you're kind of left with this dark, rich, kind of warm, cozy, but also this mysterious, if you will, mysterious style of sentini that goes onto it. That is very unique. It's not going to be for everybody, but it does have this gentlemanly sort of vibe, as well as that kind of that deep, rich darkness to it, with kind of a little bit of a boldness coming from that balsamic resins. Now, I believe that this is trying to clone or a twist on the Tom Ford Amber Absolute, which is a ridiculously hard fragrance to find, and it's also very expensive. I think I saw it listed on eBay for $900 all the way up to, I think, $2,600 is what I saw it top out at. So your boy doesn't own a full bottle, but I did get a decant of this. Got a little 5 milliliter decant of the Amber Absolute to test this side by side. This cost me more than this cost me, but I'm doing it for science for you guys here. So there are some differences. This, I'd say it's about a 70% if I'm gonna give it a number in terms of how this smells to the Tom Ford. The Tom Ford has that same amberiness, it has that same sort of incense, those woody notes, that balsamic resiny vibe, but I find the incense in the Tom Ford is a lot richer and it does come forward a lot more. So it's a lot more about that incense in the Tom Ford. And I do find the Tom Ford to have like a little bit more depth and darkness to it. It moves towards those woody notes a lot sooner than it does with the Maison Alhambra. And I do find in the far dry down, they get similar, but the Tom Ford, the woodiness, the incense that fuse into those wood notes is a lot stronger, is a lot deeper and a lot bolder. So it has a lot more darkness and a lot more kind of thickness, if you will, in that Tom Ford. So, you know, a $27 fragrance versus a $900 fragrance, I do think obviously the quality on the Tom Ford is a bit better, and I do find the richness of the notes is a lot more prominent, and it just picks up on those incensey, woody notes a lot better. And there's a little bit more vanilla in the dry down with the Tom Ford. So this one is a good smelling fragrance. It does hit that mark, but it gets to about 70%. There are definitely differences. So you're not gonna get a one-to-one between those two fragrances, but it's definitely gonna get you in the neighborhood overall. And I'd say for a $27 fragrance, they did a good job. So when it comes to the performance of Maison Alhambra's Mysterious Amber, I get pretty good performance off this. Keep in mind that I've only had this fragrance now for about 2 weeks worth of testing. And you know, typically with these kind of fragrances, it does get a little bit better over time. So take that with a grain of salt as I go through this. But straight out the bottle, right out the gate here, performance on this is pretty decent. The projection is moderate. This doesn't blast off your skin, but beyond an arm's length for the first hour and a half or so before it does settle back in. So you have a nice central, you have a nice sillage. People will definitely smell you for that first hour and a half, but it does come in a little bit closer and does settle a little more intimately, if you will, at that point. But the longevity on this, I'm getting great longevity, like 8+ hours off my skin. I'm still smelling this, getting whiffs myself well into the day, and you know, kind of settles into a skin scent about the 8-hour mark. And once it's at that skin scent, I find it kind of lingers as a skin scent for hours and hours after that, even still. So performance on this, in terms of the longevity, pretty good. In terms of projection, like I said, moderate to average, but overall, like fresh out the bottle for 27 bucks, pretty decent performance. So when it comes to the where and when, I think Maison Alhambra's Mysterious Amber would be most appropriate. This just has fall vibes written all over it, as well as into the winter. Just that woody incense, the amberiness that comes through, the resins, that kind of balsamic sweet touch that comes through. It just lends itself to that fall season, as well as kind of the cooler temperatures. You could wear this in the spring, but like I said, just doesn't fit that vibe necessarily. It doesn't have any sort of freshness to it, no floral touches, no sort of kind of like bright greens of any sort that kind of fit more of a spring. This is definitely a fall style of fragrance and will work in the wintertime as well. In terms of occasions, you can wear this one casually, but this one has this kind of uniqueness to it, that mystique, that mysterious, that dark, rich boldness to it that goes on, that I think it would be great to dress up formally. Just kind of has that sophistication, that distinguishing sort of vibe going on to it, but again, with that kind of mystique that goes on that just kind of lends itself to those formal nights. It is a unique fragrance. This isn't necessarily kind of your mass appealing dumb reach style of fragrance, but it might work on some date nights. Again, it's going to depend on your date and what their kind of taste and fragrances are, because like I said, it does have a uniqueness to it, very ambery, and with those resins that come through, it might be a hit for some, not so much for others. So you could get away with this on date nights, but formal occasions, I definitely think this would work, and you just wear this casually if you like as well. So my overall thoughts on Maison Alhambra's Mysterious Amber. I think this is a really nice fragrance, and I think they did a pretty good job of trying to at least be inspired by that Tom Ford Amber Absolute. Like I said, not quite hitting the mark there, about a 70%, and there might be some other inspiration from some other Tom Fords, maybe that kind of the myrrh mystery. There might be a little bit of myrrh that's mixed in here as well, just kind of adding to that resinous, balsamic nature to it, but I really do think they were going for that Amber Absolute style of DNA. But like I said, they didn't quite hit the mark. This doesn't have the same, you know, kind of richness and depth of that incense, the woody notes, that little peak of vanilla that comes through in the Tom Ford a little bit more than it does in this one. But the amberiness that comes through is very similar. The use of that olibanum and that labdanum to give it that kind of resinous, dark warmth that's there, that mystique that goes onto it, I think they did a good job of that. But if you're familiar with the Amber Absolute, it's gonna get you close, but it's not gonna quite get you all the way there. Like I said, performance on this, I am not disappointed with. I think it does pretty well, especially fresh out the bottle. Doesn't perform as well as the Tom Ford, but it's kind of negligible, to be quite honest. It does get you pretty close. It does perform very well. And like I said, great fall fragrance for formal occasions is where I think this one's going to shine. So this is a very unique fragrance. So like I said before, not a dumb reach, not a mass appeal, crowd pleasing style of fragrance. The resins and the balsamic nature of this is going to kind of make this set you apart from those style of fragrances. It is a little bit different, a little bit unique, and not going to be for everybody. But if you're into very ambery fragrances that has that kind of that dark richness, that kind of smoky, resinous, sweet balsamic style of nature sitting on some nice woody notes, I think you might enjoy this one, and it might be worth checking out. That's Maison Alhambra's Mysterious Amber. And I want to hear from you guys. What are some other Maison Alhambra fragrances you want to see me do a full review on? Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting your different recommendations, your hidden gems, different taste and scent profiles. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you all next time.